listening to the Operation Self Reset podcast with Jacob Naraki. What is going on, Resetters? Welcome back to Operation Self Reset, the one only podcast to truly transform your thinking, your way of life. And welcome back to the Reset Revolution. That is right, a revolution against yourselves, because the only person that is holding you back from your true potential, your true success in life is yourself. And like always, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. If you have not yet subscribed, please head on over to iTunes and subscribe. Leave a review if you have a second. It'd be greatly, greatly appreciated. Without your support, there would be no Operation Self Reset. So with that, let's dive into today's quote. Is provided by Susan from Memphis, Tennessee. And her quote goes like this. Quote, "A person should be like a watch, open-faced, busy hands, well-regulated, and full of good works." Thank you, Susan. And if you guys have a quote out there, I would love to hear them. You can be featured on the Operation Self Reset podcast. Head on over to your email and email me ask at osreset.com. Ask at osreset.com and give me a quote so I can feature you on the podcast. So today we're going to be talking about an entrepreneur that is within you. Yes, you are an entrepreneur. Jake, no, I'm not. I'm not an entrepreneur. Yeah, well, today you are, because I truly believe every single one of us is an entrepreneur. If you want to change yourself, if you are here because you want to reset your thinking, way of life, you need to be an entrepreneur. You need to shake and bake. You need to move and jive and keep yourself going in different directions and figuring out your path, because what you're doing right now is not working, right? So that is why I am here to instill and to find and uncover that entrepreneur within yourself. And to take a second and talk about my entrepreneur mindset, it all began when I created that product, the tailgate spotter. And I have stated this a couple of times throughout the podcast. And one story that I totally forgot to share with you guys is that I pitched the tailgate spotter to a person from the Shark Tank. He is not on the Shark Tank anymore. I forget his name, but he was an older gentleman, spiked hair, short, looked very tan. And I saw him at CES, Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas in 2012. I was out there with my brother-in-law. His company buys some electronics and sells them, whatever. And I was out there just for enjoying the nice weather in January, which it really wasn't. It was actually kind of cool. But then also, too, I was able to see the new hot electronics for the following year, for the following Christmas season. So it all began with, creating this invention. And actually, I brought a couple of these prototypes to Las Vegas with me, just in case if I saw somebody or met somebody, I would have a prototype with me. And for the people that don't know what a tailgate spotter is a simple-to-use device that attaches to the back of your pickup truck bed, or the tailgate, I should say. And it lets you know if your tailgate's in the up position, which would be closed, or in the down position, which means your tailgate is open. And Cliff Note version, I had a couple of things fall out of the back of my pickup truck, and it didn't end too well for a Jeep Wrangler, $1,700 worth of damage, and boom, there was the idea for the tailgate spotter. So I decided to take action and create this and start making a website and start selling this bad boy. Well, I did not sell any. I gave away more than actually I should have, or, I should have started charging a couple of people, but whatever. When you got friends and family asking for it or trying it out, why not, right? Why not? So I took a couple of these prototypes with me to Las Vegas, went to the CES Consumer Electronics Show. I was walking around by myself. My brother-in-law was making some deals. And when I was there, I was a big fan of the Shark Tank. The Shark Tank just started. And sure enough, I came across a gentleman from the Shark Tank, and he was walking around with about 4 or 5 other gentlemen, and they're kind of cruising the show, looking for different gadgets or whatever. And I saw this guy, and I freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh, this is my moment. This is my moment to pitch my product. I mean, I can get on the Shark Tank. That's what I was thinking to myself, right? So I opened it was like a bag briefcase kind of thing, made sure it was still there. I went on my phone to make sure I identified this gentleman so I could call him by his proper name. And I wasn't like, hey, guy from Shark Tank, look at me. I wanted to present him in a formal manner. So the good thing was I was already looking professional. I was kind of wearing a button-down dress shirt with khaki pants. So I was looking and playing the part. So that was good. And I started following around this group of gentlemen. I was trying to get on my phone and research this gentleman's name. And I couldn't because there was literally over 100,000 people, I think 130,000 people that go to this show year after year. And a lot of these people have smartphones. So I was like, oh man, I'm not going to be able to get on my phone here and get this guy's name. I was trying to Google search him. It didn't work out. I kept on following him. I kept on searching my phone. Didn't work out. Well, I finally got the connection. I had to stop walking so I could start reading the material. And when I looked up after getting his name, he disappeared. He went away. I was like, oh man, I just totally blew it. So I decided next time I see him, I'm just going to walk up to him, present this idea to him, and go from there. I'm just going to do it. Just like you guys out there, sometimes you just need to take action and just do it. And that is what I did. So I cruised around CES a little longer. I was kind of getting nervous, going, oh man, I blew my chances. Next thing you know, I see him with that same group of people still cruising around. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to do this. And talk about being nervous. Now, he wasn't a huge celebrity. He wasn't, Tom Cruise with, the movie cameras following him around or anything like that. He was a guy that's been on Shark Tank for the last, I think he was on there for one season. So I actually had to look up his name again. His name is Kevin Harrington. He was one of the original crew of the Shark Tank. So I'm sitting there and I'm getting really nervous because I have to walk up to him. And usually I am an outgoing individual. I get nervous. I think being nervous is normal. But I usually can present myself and just kind of do it. So I was standing there. I'm like, Jay, just do it. This is your only shot. You got this intervention. This could be huge, right? So I walk up to him. I say, excuse me, Mr. Harrington, how you doing, sir? I know you're on Shark Tank. I know you get pitched all the time, but I have this device that you put on the back of a tailgate for a pickup truck. I was wondering if you could take a look at it and give me some input from you. And he goes, yeah, let me see it. Really cool guy. I mean, I felt really rushed because he looked like he was in a rush, so I didn't really have a game plan. I didn't have any, like a pitch for him. I just said I wanted some input. So I pull out this device, the tailgate spotter, and I show it to him. And he goes, oh, interesting. He goes, you know what? I'm actually going to be at the tailgate, I was going to say tailgate spotter conference. It's the tailgate conference or convention, tailgate convention at Mandalay Bay tomorrow at around 1 o'clock. I'm going to be there with a TV crew. Why don't you come on down and we'll talk more about this? And I'm like, holy beep. Awesome. Yes, let's do this. Thank you so much. I'm like hugging him and, high-fiving those guys and all that stuff. I'm like, cool. I'll see you tomorrow, 1 o'clock. So I go and meet my brother-in-law. And I'm ecstatic. I mean, I'm like calling everybody. I'm calling my parents. I'm calling my wife, Vanessa. I'm like telling her the excitement and all the news and all that stuff. So that evening, I get my prototype straight in order. I wear a suit coat. I'm trying to really do the best I can. I'm setting myself up for success. So the next day around 12:30, my brother-in-law and I go to Mandalay Bay, and sure enough, there's the tailgate convention, and it's actually pretty big. And the tailgate convention is for tailgaters, basically, people that go and hang out. For example, they had different items from sports teams, grills, tables, table chairs, everything kind of related to tailgating at a sporting event that you could attach to your truck, things for this and that, all different types of things. I can't even remember exactly. But so I get a ticket, I go in there, and I'm walking around this place, and I see a gentleman dressed to the nines. He's in a striped suit. And I walk up to him like, sir, excuse me, do you know Mr. Harrington? He's going to be here at 1 o'clock. I was seeing if you knew where he was at or anything like that. And the gentleman goes, yeah, actually, I'm supposed to meet him here this afternoon. I'll give him a call for you. I'm like, oh, awesome. So I go, I kind of peel myself off to the side. I see that gentleman call his number, talking to him for a little bit. the guy's explaining what I'm wearing. So, not to be shocked when this young guy runs up to him. And so he goes, "Oh, Jake, perfect. He'll be here in about 20 minutes. He'll be coming through the main entryway." Perfect. So I kind of go over there, I stake out, and I'm just waiting. And next thing you know, here comes his mob of 4 people plus him, and now a TV crew, the interviewer, the camera with the lights, and a boom for the audio. And they're starting to cruise on in. And they're filming and walking with him. And I kind of barge in and I reach in, I shake his hand. I'm like, "Hey, Mr. Harrington, I'm just here to meet with you or whatever." He goes, "Hey, I got to do this one thing with this TV crew. I'll get with you in a second." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." He goes, "Just stick along." So I start walking around this conference center, this convention with him for like 45 minutes. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, "Jake, this isn't going to work out. It's time to bail. This guy's not going to give you the time of day." I mean, there's people like pulling him in different directions, asking him this, getting his input on that. He's looking for creative products, probably he could personally invest in, but also probably to invest in or to bring on the Shark Tank. So I'm like, "No, I got to stay here. I really got to work this out. I really got to just stick with him." So about 45 minutes, hour go by. And the camera finally turns off. They dismount the camera from the shoulder. The boom pole goes down. He's kind of chatting with the news anchor. They shake hands. They leave. And now it's Mr. Harrington, Kevin Harrington, and his guys just kind of standing in the middle of this conference center, looking at their cell phones, looking at some paperwork and everything like that. I'm like, this is my only chance. Now, kind of take a step back. I actually did a little investigating around this conference center. And because my device is attached to a tailgate of a truck, I needed to find a truck. And luckily, there was a truck on the premises, but it was on, of course, the other side of the convention center. So I walk up to Mr. Harrington. I'm like, "Hey, it's Jake again. I just want to see, can I grab 2 minutes of your time? The thing is, though, there's a truck over on the far side of the convention center. Can you walk with me? And I want to demonstrate this very quickly, and then we can get on our way." And he kind of looks at his business partners and like, "Okay, sure, fine." Well, we start cruising in that way. And I'm trying to make small talk with this guy, but I can't because there's nothing. He's talking to his guys, like kind of like whispering. And then I'm like, "Oh, how you guys doing today?" "Good, good, good." And then he like kind of goes back to whispering. So he was not very open to me per se, but I didn't care because I was on a mission from God and I had to get to that tailgate truck. Or I got to get to the truck to put the device on the tailgate. So I go up to that truck and I'm like, "All right, here we go." I pull out my device, the tailgate spotter. I pull down the tailgate. I show him, obviously your tailgate's in the up and down position. I slap on this device. I give him my spiel. I show that it can be seen in the side mirror. It can also be seen in the rear view mirror. It'll help you back up. All of the key features. And so after my pitch, I'm like, "So what do you think?" I'm like, I'm really expecting some type of fireworks and handshakes and high fives to go on now and be like, "Oh my God, this is the best thing ever." Well, he stood there. He had his hands on his mouth, kind of like rubbing his chin, going, "Okay." Then his business partner jumped in and he goes, "Well, what are the facts? How many people own a pickup truck? How many people have this problem? How many people have had items fall out of their truck and cause accidents on expressways? Do you have the facts from the DOT, from the Transportation of America? Do you have facts for this and that?" I was bombarded with like a stats report that I didn't have any stats for. And I was like, I don't even know, to be honest. I made this thing and I just decided to go with it. And so then his business partner was like, "I mean, it could be a good idea. It could be a good idea, but we don't have any statistics on it to let me know if it's worthy investment." And he goes, "If you had that, then we could talk. But for now, you're just going to have to go figure that out on your own." And I'm like, "Okay, thank you for your time." Shook hands. As they were walking away, I was like, "Well, overall, though, what do you think?" They both looked at me and like shrugged their shoulders like, whatever. So talk about getting the wind taken out of your sails. I felt crummy. I felt like a bad person. I just felt worn out. I was drained. My mouth was cotton mouth. I mean, I was totally exhausted. I mean, it felt like I just ran a marathon in 10 minutes. I mean, I was drained emotionally, physically. I just wanted to grab a beer, to be honest with you. So I meet back up with my brother-in-law and I tell him what happened or whatever. And he's like, hey, the good thing is you met him and blah, blah, blah. But the moral of the story, actually, before I get to the moral of the story, I started walking around the show with my brother-in-law because we just decided to go and see what else was being sold at this tailgate conference. And when we were there, my brother-in-law was like, oh yeah, this is my brother-in-law, Jake. He actually was just on the Shark Tank. So my brother-in-law was pushing me up like I was on the Shark Tank. So then all of these people that were trying to push their product, their little gizmo for their truck accessory or for the picnic table that's, snaps on the cover, they were all pitching me their products. And I was like, no. I'm not that guy. I was trying to be on the show. And they're like, oh, how was the show? And so whatever. So I started like going with it. I was like, forget it. So then I just started kind of talking with these people and having a good time. But the moral of the story was, and I figured throughout the whole run around with meeting him at CES and then going to a different hotel and meeting him there and dragging him away from his schedule and just putting myself out there, I realized a couple of things. Number one is just to do it. Kevin Harrington, was he on the Shark Tank? Yes. Is he a human being? He is. He puts on his pants the same way. And I know it's easier said than done, but truly he is a normal guy like myself. And if you present yourself with people, they will give you the time of day. He wasn't a jerk. He wasn't too good for me. He gave me a couple of minutes of his time. And it made me realize that he's a normal guy. He wants he wants to make a buck at the end of the day, but he also wants to hear what people have to say. And so that's one big tip that I have for you. You're going to encounter things in your life. You're going to encounter people that you maybe don't jive with or you don't get along with, but they're human. They're just like you. And if you want to talk to them on a serious level and really present them with ideas or a new concept or something that you're thinking that bothers you, they will listen to you. And if you have a crummy job and you hate it and you want a little more flexibility, you want to maybe work from home or whatever, just ask him or her. Just ask them. They are like you. They are not 1,100% confident every single waking moment. They have their highs and lows like you. Just ask people and get in front of them and present them, because you know what? The more times you do that, the better you're going to get. That was my first and last time presenting that tailgate spotter, that invention, in front of anybody. So the second thing that I realized is that anytime that you want to go forward with a new business, go forward with a new way of life, as in quit your job and find a new job, quit your job and start that company, quit that job and start an online business, whatever it may be, or that invention, or even taking calculated risks, saying that I'm going to stop working for 3 months, you need to have facts in place. That is the number one thing that I realized. You need to have the facts. No matter what it is, you need to have the facts. He asked me, how many people does this affect? How many people have trucks? How many people have caused accidents? He wanted to know the facts, because that would make him or give him the information to make a calculated decision. So when you are thinking about your own personal reset, if you are thinking about changing your life and you want to do certain things, find those facts, get the calculated ideas behind it so you're better prepared. If you want to do something financially, make sure your numbers are financially squared away. If you want to do something personally to your body, make sure you set aside the time to invest in the new you. You got to get those facts. Understand that if you want to change your mindset, it's not going to happen in 30 minutes. It takes months, for some years, for some it takes weeks to really break those barriers mentally for you to finally start succeeding in life. So those are the two big things that I personally found out when it came to having this idea and presenting it to people trying to make income off of it. So how does this, though, relate to average you? The person that doesn't have the invention, the person that lives their life day in and day out, enjoys their job, but is looking for a little more, looking for that little extra, looking for that little change within. Well, like I stated earlier on in this podcast, every single person is an entrepreneur. You may not believe it. And you might be relating entrepreneurship to somebody that only works for himself and is creating a business where he is hustling and he's working his fingers to the bone to make ends meet. And that's not always the case. An entrepreneur, for me personally, is an individual that decides to think outside of the box, decides to take action in a different direction. An entrepreneur is somebody that sees the normal group of people run towards one thing, and instead of running with that group, he takes a second, looks around, and goes the other way or in a different direction, or finds the same thing but decides to create it himself. So here are a couple of keywords that I want to associate with you for when you are trying to consider an entrepreneur in your own life. So number one is mindset, and this is Operation Self-Reset, and I truly believe the first thing that you need to do when you are trying to do a personal reset or to try and discover that entrepreneur within is truly mindset. If you don't have the mindset for success, you're not going to achieve anything. Truly, period. Boom. So when it comes to mindset, you need to believe that you're creative and out-of-the-box thinker. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, that's so, Jake, out-of-the-box thinker. I hear that all the time in my job. I hear that all the time in the news. I hear that all the time when I watch Shark Tank or read entrepreneur magazines. Think outside the box. But what the heck does that really mean? Out-of-the-box thinker. Well, here are a couple examples of thinking outside of the box. Let's go to the great world of sports. In 1968, there was a gentleman named Dick Fosbury. He was a high jumper. And prior to him creating the Fosbury flop, as it's now known, the way people, men and women, would approach the high jump is that they would run at the bar that's horizontal to the ground, straight on. Think of a high jump. If you don't know what it is, basically it's like doing the limbo, but you're trying to go over the bar instead of under it. So traditionally, or before the Fosbury flop, people would run at the bar and basically just spring over it. Just jump as high as they could and try not to hit the bar. If you hit the bar with your feet or your hand and it gets knocked off, you do not pass that level. And if you pass that level, you go on to the next round. The next round will increase the height by a couple inches. Well, Fosbury saw how everybody was approaching this high jump. And for a couple of years there, before 1968, it was kind of maxed out. The sport was maxed out. A couple of people were able to get a half an inch or a quarter inch more off the record, but nobody was able to really get those huge, inches, or a couple inches of separation from first place to second place. So he decided to think outside of the box. And he started experimenting on himself, on his, spare time, approaching the high jump in a different way. He thought, you know what? Instead of running at it straight on like everybody else, what if I came on an angle? And instead of leaping over forward so my gut would be close to the bar, why not try to arch my back and whip my body over the top of it backwards? Now, we see that in today's sports. I mean, if you turn on the Summer Olympics, you can see every man and woman that is part of that sport is doing the Fosbury flop. It's almost normal now. But at that time in 1968, it wasn't. And when he approached that bar for the first time with a diagonal approach and flopped over backwards, people were in shock. They could not believe it. They thought it was ridiculous. That's never going to work. He's never going to win anything because that's not the way you do it. Well, he won gold in his event, and he won gold the next couple of years until people started to catch on. And they started to realize, wow, this is actually a lot better. You're able to get more height, more arch. You're able to whip your body around it instead of trying to float over it. And he truly transformed the sport. And like I said, if you turn on the Summer Olympics now, you see it and it's almost normal. But at one time it wasn't. So truly that is a definition of out-of-the-box thinking. Another way of approaching of out-of-the-box thinking is a concrete worker was asked to make sidewalks to this huge, huge apartment complex. And the traditional route would be from the front door or the back door would be just straight to the curb or straight to the parking lot. And the owner of the apartment complex actually wanted to make some other sidewalks connecting the buildings together. And the concrete worker thought for a second because he's never done a project that big before. And he approached it in a different way. He thought, you know what? How about this? How about we wait a couple of months to see how people utilize accessing these apartment complexes just without sidewalks? There's going to be wear and tear on the grass, but it'll give us a better idea of how people are able to go around the structures, get in and out of the structures, and it might give us a better idea of where to put these sidewalks to make them more practical. The owner was okay with it because he didn't have the cash at the time. So the concrete company decided to come back in a couple of months. And when they came back, they saw the wear patterns of where the people were taking the shortcuts, where they were, the easier way to get in and out of the building complex, to their cars, what have you. And so that gentleman, the concrete worker, put in these sidewalks exactly where the wear patterns were on the grass. Now, it might sound simple and easy, but when was the last time you have ever seen that? When was the last time somebody said, you know what, we're going to hold off on this project and see how people handle it, and then from there, we're going to install that concrete. From there, we're going to install that procedure or that way of new thinking or of adjusting for that project. It doesn't happen often. So to encourage this kind of creative and non-conforming thinking, you need to stop once in a while and notice the problems with the way things work. Identify the things or the ideas you have about what is quote unquote supposed to be or normal or what people are supposed to do, and drop them. Really just stop trying to think in that realm or what you feel is the right thing to do. Look carefully for what is actually there or what is actually happening, and look for that little tidbit, that little hair of inspiration, that different approach. And it's truly tough to do because, especially when you're working on projects with other people, they might conform you into going one direction. And if you want to be that creative thinker and you pipe up and you say, excuse me, I have this different idea. How about we wait for the concrete? They'll be like, what the heck are you talking about? We're not waiting for concrete. We need the concrete in now. It could be a lawsuit. It could be this. We're going to get sued. So that's why I truly believe each and every one of us is an entrepreneur. Now, you might not be able to chime up in those big business meetings, but take these little tidbits of ideas and little stories and put it towards your own entrepreneur mindset. So the second kind of keyword that I have for finding and uncovering your entrepreneur mindset is self-belief. Kind of going back to that out-of-the-box thinking, I believe that you need to have the true potential. You need to think to yourself that I am capable of thinking creatively, thinking outside of the box, because I know it will work. And the only way that you're able to get your ideas out there and to really feel comfortable with the things that you're trying to say is if you have that belief from within. If you have that confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to stop thinking like a normal person. I'm going to stop thinking like a robot, and I'm going to start thinking like Jake Naraki or Susan Saranda, whoever you are listening. And Susan Saranda, if you're listening, thank you for joining me on the Operation Self Reset podcast. But you need to have that confidence and believe that your ideas might work. And you also have to believe that they might not work. But that's why you need that confidence to be like, if it doesn't work, no big deal. I'll move on to the next thing because there's always bigger and better things out there that I'm able to create and identify. Going back to that story of Dick Fosbury, think of him for a second. Think of him lining up differently when his name was called to go and approach the high jump. Think of how many people were probably giggling, pointing at him, going, what the heck? Look at this guy. He's loony. Why is he running from that angle? And then only until then, when he cleared that first bar or that first height, going at that different approach, people believed. But he truly knew within himself that he has the self-belief to identify and realize, I don't have to do it like everybody else. I'm capable of this idea and I know it's going to work. I think it's going to work. I have that belief within and I'm going to try it. Is he going to get made fun of? Yeah. Is he going to get written up in the newspaper? Yeah. Is he going to get pointed at and giggled and people are going to call him crazy? Yeah. But look at now. Every single person that does the high jump does it his way, the Fosbury flop. And also, too, along with self-belief, is that you need to be flexible with your ideas. Doesn't matter if it's an invention, a new startup company. You want to change a couple of things around the house, the way you approach, cleaning the house, for example. That's entrepreneur mindset. And you need to be flexible in hearing other people's opinions. And that's a tough one for people to identify with because, for example, myself, when I created the tailgate spotter, oh my gosh, you should have heard how many people were questioning and giving me suggestions. I should have done this. It could be creative like that. Oh, you should, have the logo turned this way. Oh, you should really protect it like so-and-so. Everybody has an idea. And you kind of start to build this anger around it because it's like, no, this is my project. I don't want to hear your opinion. But what I personally realize, and I think that you guys can relate to also, is that it's good to hear other opinions. And it's kind of, sometimes it's tough because they're going to break it down and they're going to want to chop it up and turn it around. But if you're able to get a couple of those ideas that you use into your new invention, your new business, your new way of cleaning the house or whatever, you talk to your husband and he has a suggestion, take it and maybe try it or even just incorporate it a little bit. It's worth it because your idea is probably great, and it is great, but it's always good to get different opinions and different approaches to it. And that's where that self-belief of knowing that your idea and your concept will work, but it's always good to be a little flexible with your hardcore beliefs so you're able to adjust when other people are giving you their opinions. And the last kind of keyword when it comes to uncovering your entrepreneur within is rules. Yes, rules. It's a made-up word. It's from a company called Mind Valley, and they produce a lot of self-help material. I'm a member of them, and in the future here, I'm going to be bringing on a couple of their employees because they have some amazing stuff to say. But one thing that Vishkin is kind of the founder and CEO of Mind Valley, he talks about rules. Rules are, I don't know how else to say this, bull doo-doo rules. Okay, I'm going to break it down like that because I can't really swear on here per iTunes. So they're rules, but they're BS rules. There really are no rules. Who sets the rules? Who says you have to eat with a fork and knife? Well, society does because that's normal. But you look in history, you look at all the people that have created this world, created everything that you and I are touching right now. I'm touching a computer. I'm touching, a microphone that's capturing my voice and pushing it into this computer device. I have electronics around me. It's so much electricity. Think of and remember back to when you were a kid in grade school and they started going through Albert Einstein and all of the famous inventors and all the people that have created so much for this great planet. They were crazy. They were messed up. And I remember one story about the gentleman who made the radio. And I actually was trying to document and look up who was the first inventor of the radio. But man, there's like 30 people that have their name associated with the radio. So I can't identify the name exactly. And maybe if you know, maybe you could shoot me an email. But when this gentleman thought of, hey, I'm going to send voice through the airwaves and then I'm going to capture it on the other end, truly his friends were going to put him in the psych ward. They thought he was nuts. And take yourself back to like the 1930s when there really, electricity was kind of not really around, there was no technology, everything was still old school. And you had a buddy of yours or a friend that was like, hey, Jake, I got this crazy idea. Yeah, let me hear about it. So think of voice, like your voice, but traveling through the air. And then I'm able to capture it with this coil and listen to it. I'd be like, dude, what kind of drugs are you on? You're nuts. No. Really, hear me out. I mean, think of it. If you had a friend like that come up to you today with some wild, wicked idea, you would be like, you're crazy. That is nuts. That's sci-fi. That's never going to happen. You are ridiculous. And you would probably put them in the psych ward too. But look, sure enough, radio, we still use it today. I mean, it's amazing the people that were considered crazy, considered nuts, considered different and weird, and they're creatures and all that stuff. And look at what they have done to give us what we have today. So there are real no rules. Being proper and going with society, of course, you need that because that's just the way the world works. But when it comes to your own personal mindset, when it comes to your own personal self-beliefs, and when it comes to your own personal creativity, there is nothing that needs to be holding you back. You are not held back by rules. Let your imagination run wild, truly. And how do we let our imagination run wild? Well, it's by being creative every single day. And you're like, well, I just don't have those ideas. I don't have those invention ideas. I'm not really that creative of a thinker. You are. You just decide not to access it. And how do we access it? I believe the best way to do it is to sit down literally for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and just jot on a pen with a pen and paper. And think of crazy ideas and things that annoy you. What annoys you with your outfit right now? What annoys you with kitchen utensils? What annoys you with stuff that you use every single day? Think of the toothbrush. Is there a better way to hold a toothbrush? Is there a better way to comb your hair? Is there a better way to squirt the shampoo out of the bottle onto your scrubby thingamajigger and wash your body? There's millions of things that are around you that annoy the heck out of you, but you continue to use them because there's no other option. So to access that creative channel, start jotting things that absolutely drive you nuts, but you can't change or you feel like you can't change. And identify those things. And I'm telling you that ball's going to roll into a bigger snowball, and next thing you know, you have an avalanche. And that applies to everything. Business, life, helping out your kids, whatever. I mean, think of a million things, I believe that's the best way to get your creative approach going. And I'm not saying everybody needs to be an inventor. I'm not saying you need to start, making these crazy products and start selling them. But it gets your creative juices going. And once you get that, then you can start taking those ideas and that mindset and that belief of, wow, I am a creative thinker into different avenues, such as your personal life, your business life, and your family life. So those are the keywords that I really have kind of brought together for uncovering your true entrepreneur within. And I hope those really help you. And out of all the keywords that I just talked about for the last 20 minutes, the one that I believe is really, really kind of crazy and groundbreaking is the rules. There are no rules. For example, like with myself, with the podcast, there's nothing that says that I have to have an intro and an outro, and it doesn't say that I have to, push my website at the end. I could do whatever I want, but because all the other podcasts have a formula that has kind of worked, I feel like I have to go along with it. And that's something that I'm going through right now. Maybe I should start changing up my stuff. And I know I should because I am a creative thinker. And who's to say that the traditional way of doing this, what I'm doing, is the right way? It isn't. I can tell you that. It is not. But it's what works currently. What works currently. So take that approach. There is no rules. Set your own rules. Take a different approach to it. Think outside of the box. Take something what everybody else is doing. Watch them and go, there has to be a better way to go about this. There has to be a more creative way to go about this. There has to be an easier way to go about this. And the one thing that I love is that parents, and now I'm a new parent, people get ticked off. I don't even know if I could say that. Ticked off about, when they suggest ideas for parenting. Oh, you should really, wash your kid's hair this way. Oh, he looks sick. Oh, he looks tired. You should put him down for a nap. Don't coddle him. It's just back and forth. And parents hate that. And I know if you're a parent, you're probably like shaking your head. Yep. Oh my gosh, my mother drives me nuts. So really, there are no rules. You adjust on the fly. You will understand how to, grow or how to raise your own child by the way it works. And take that approach to your life, your business, and whatever. So there you go. Those are the tips that I have for Entrepreneur Mindset Within. If you guys have keywords or suggestions for unlocking or uncovering that true entrepreneur within, please feel free to shoot me over an email or leave a comment on the website, osreset.com/uncover. Yeah, that's what we're going to go with, uncover. osreset.com/uncover. And also, too, if you like this podcast, if you are a raging fan and you just love it, or if you heard it for the first time, that's cool, too. I would greatly appreciate you guys filling out a survey. It's 10 questions. It would really help me provide the best content for you guys. And I've already received 35 surveys from you guys, and I appreciate the people that have done it. I don't even know who did it because you don't need to log in. There's no password, or you don't have to sign up. You just dive on in and fill it out. It takes 5 minutes. It would really help me out personally. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a few minutes, the way to go there is go to osreset.com/survey. osreset.com/survey, and it would really help me out. I'm going to end this podcast with a keyword in the crazy, cheesy music. So here we go, people. You ready for this? Keyword of the day is entrepreneur. And yes, even though we've been talking about entrepreneur this whole podcast, I want to hit home one fact. You are an entrepreneur. You may not feel it. You may not want to create inventions. You may not even want to start a business. You might like your current job. You might love the way your life is going, and that is totally fine. But I'm telling you, though, you are an entrepreneur every single day, every waking moment. You are one that can think outside of the box. You are a creative individual. You do not need to follow the rules. You do not need to be part of the norm. Separate yourself from the ideas and beliefs that are thrown in your face every single day, every waking moment. Try changing one thing about yourself. Try changing one thing around your life currently to start thinking like an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a person that has the idea of change. Change for themselves, the change for the consumer, the change for their family, and for the people that surround them. Think of different ways to approach life. Life is not meant to be on a one-axis basis. Everybody stands in line. Think of something else. Try to get around that line. Think of ideas to get yourself in the front of the line as quick as you can. Because once you do that, once you start unlocking that true potential with the entrepreneur mindset, you will start increasing your life tenfold. Not only for yourself, but for your family, because they're going to see it and they're going to want to be it. Just like myself, I created the tailgate spotter, and was it a flop? Yes, I sold none. I invested money that I will never get back, but I tell you how many people I've inspired. I know 4 people personally right now that are going through patenting their inventions because of me. They asked me questions and they wanted to go through with it because they saw that they are capable of it. They saw Jake Naraki do it. They thought, well, if Jake can do it, why can't I do it? We are all entrepreneurs. We all have those ideas and ways to approach things, but we're scared to do it. We need to release that fear and think like an entrepreneur, a person that has no money to their name, but yet has an idea that truly they believe in, will inspire millions, will transform the world. Think of Albert Einstein. Think of all the great inventors that have inspired and transformed what we do, what we use every single day. Those people were known to be crazy. Unlock your crazy side. Become an entrepreneur and become the best version of yourself that you can. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate everything that you guys have done for me. I thank you for the feedback. I thank you for the emails. And if you guys have any questions for me, email me, ask@osreset.com. And also, too, please fill out that survey, osreset.com/survey, so I can improve this podcast to inspire you more. Without you, there would be no Operation Self-Reset. You are part of the reset revolution, and I thank you. Take care, guys. We will catch you next week, Wednesday, for another great episode of the Operation Self-Reset podcast.